Okay, g'day all. Alright, been having gearbox issues. I had an issue with this gearbox from the first time I got it. I put it in, it wouldn't actually go into second gear while you were running. It'd go into second gear while you're stationary, but yeah, not with the engine running. Well, not while you're travelling anyway. And I found that the synchro ring was broken. That's these, you can't see them anyway. Well, you might. It's a little brass ring inside here. Yeah, there's two of them, one either side. There's your synchro ring. And inside this selector is three little short bar things held in with springs. And yeah, two of them were actually missing. One was broken now, the rest got chewed up, I suppose. But anyway, I swapped them out of my old swing arm gearbox, so they're exactly the same. I put them in. When I pulled it apart, I put a mark. We're going to see if I can't see it. Try some light. Because I haven't actually set this yet. So whether you can actually see it. Yeah. There's a little tiny hacksaw cut. I did that before I undid it, so I knew where to position it, because this is actually adjustable. This towards the staple. Yeah, because this moves up and down on the shaft. Actually, I got two cuts there. Why have I got two cuts? That's interesting. Unless that's someone else's cut. Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe a slip. Anyway, that one. Sorry, I'm looking at Joe. I'm not looking at what I'm videoing. Yeah. Anyway, there's actually two marks there. I don't know how I managed that, but anyway, I set it up to where it was before I pulled it apart, and yeah, then it'd jump out of first when you're backing off down a hill, like a steep hill coming down my driveway. Actually, it's the only place that ever did it. Yeah. It would jump out of first. So I thought, well, while I've got everything out this time, I'm going to pull the gearbox apart again. And I shifted a little bit. Well, the other thing it would do is you'd put it into second, and if you pushed it past the point, like it clicks in, there's a slot in the shaft and what you call a detent spring. You got a spring with a ball bearing on it that fits into a slot. That's what keeps it in place, you know. First, neutral, and second. And anyway, but if you pushed it past that point, it'd grind in second. So I thought, well, it must be not adjusted properly. So I pulled it apart and pushed it a little more towards first, and put it back in, put everything back in, took a drive, and then it was jumping out of second this time. Like straight away, it wouldn't even stay in. Couldn't even use second. So yeah, I had to pull everything out, engine, gearbox, the whole works again, and I pulled it all apart because I thought, well, I might see if there's anything majorly worn, you know, and I could compare it, you know, or replace it with, see what I got here. I got the parts out of the old swing arm gearbox. The intention was if there was any of the gears majorly worn, I'd swap them over, but couldn't find any wear and anything. So yeah, I'm not real sure where I'm at now. I'm going to do it back up now, and I'm going to check. I'm going to go from first to second and just check how close it is to either of these gears. See if I got it equal. But yeah, I'm really at a loss as to why it's doing it. Anyway, well, yeah, I wouldn't attempt pulling one of these gearbox apart if you're an absolute novice, unless you've had some sort of mechanical experience, pulling engines apart or something like that. Don't attempt this job. It's fairly complicated, and you have to get it right, or it's just not going to work. And yeah, to pull it apart, you have to take this spring clip off. There's a spring clip here, and that is actually spring loaded. There's a spring. It's a funny looking spring. It's brass. It's closed up at the moment. See that brass thing with the two lines around it, the two cuts? That's actually a spring. And yeah, you could probably, I think this bolt here holds a bearing in, but I still don't think you'd get it out. Because you can't pull up the whole shaft without taking the other shaft out as well. And yeah, so you basically got to do that, take that clip off and let it spring out, and then of course you've got to compress the spring to get it back in, which is what the clamp's about. And yeah, I've used a bit of pipe with a cutout and a plate so that I can magnet access to get the clip in. I think that that's the inner runner of the bearing. I think this whole thing is going to come back a bit when I let it off. I hope so, because otherwise there's something not right here, because the bearing needs to go in back in the inner part of the bearing. Anyway, I'll do that now actually. If I can do it one-handed. Oh, yeah. It didn't go back in fully. I don't actually remember now what it was. I guess that's how it is. Yeah, it's 6 something. That doesn't look right. I might investigate that a bit more. It doesn't look right to me. It looks like it should be sitting down back further. Really sort of making this review happen. Somebody else has had the same issue and knows what the deal is. Yeah, the gears are meshing properly, so the shaft's actually in the right place. Yep. Yeah. Must be right. Okay. I don't know the idea of the spring. I suppose the spring could be for when you tighten this down. So, yeah, because this is adjustable, there's shims in here. It's only got one in a minute. But that, yeah, the adjustment is to take up the the slack against your diff, like that fits against your actual diff and axles. But, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to plod along now. I'm going to tighten this up to where I've marked it. And I wish there wasn't 2 notches in there, because it makes me unsure now which is notch is which. I would say the inner one, because I couldn't have made maybe I made one and it wasn't close enough, so I've made a second one, yeah. Because I couldn't make that one while it was in place, if it was in place to the outer one. So yeah, it has to be the inner notch. Anyway, so I'm going to do that back up again to the inner notch. I'm going to go from first to second and just check the gap, see if I've got it even. So yeah. Oh, the other thing I want to show you too. This is a absolute pain too. These slots, the same shape as in the casing, and the only thing that indicates where these flats are is this notch here. And I'd previously tried to I'd lined it up with the shaft, but the problem is that you can't actually see it. So I just noticed there's another flat here, but it's not completely in line with it either. So I'll try it out here. It's sort of difficult because once you get it in place, it doesn't want to move. It sort of jams in there. So it's really difficult to try and turn it back and forwards to get the slot in. But, yeah, of course, you also got your reverse one. And that just falls out when you pull it apart. I'll show you the pieces. Right. Just your reverse gear. That's the selector. And you basically got to put them in. You got to put that on the shaft. But once you pick up the sole unit, you start putting it back in. You put your reverse gear down on the shaft. You put your selector in place. Well, no, you put the selector, on here with the gear. Then you hold it. You got one finger in here like this, holding it, while you sort of drop it into the casing. And once it actually engages the shaft, it'll stay on there. But yeah, that's another thing. It's a pain in the bum with this gearbox. Pull a few gearboxes apart and replace bearings and things in my time. But yeah, this is the most difficult, complicated thing I've come across yet, as far as gearboxes go. And, yeah, I don't think there's any much else to show you, other than this is what goes on the other side. There's another shim that goes behind that as well. That goes on there, that's what retains it. Of course, that's coming up from the underside. And in another video, I made my own special tool to hold it. Took a while. But, I found some square rod, and I cut it into all those little pieces were cut separately. And then I put a hose clamp. I couldn't think of that word. Anyway, I put a hose clamp around it. Had it sitting on here. with all these individual pieces of rod engaged. I put a hose clamp around it to hold them in place. Then I tacked each one all the way along, all the way around. Then I put another band, metal band around that again, and then fully welded it all the way around. Yeah, that's another bit of pipe with a piece of plate with a socket welded on the end. Yeah, that's probably 3 hours worth of work just making that tool, but yeah, I didn't really have an option. Couldn't afford to buy the right one, and not only that, I couldn't even get one in Australia. So yeah, at the time I wanted to get the gearbox back together, and I didn't want to wait a month for whatever, how long it would take to get one here from Germany or wherever. So yeah, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Anyway, I went this year. This is by no means a tutorial of how to fix your gearbox. It's more hoping for some feedback on somebody who actually knows what they're doing with it and can tell me why it's jumping out of first gear. And yeah, anything else I might be able to do. Oh, the other thing too, it's just started, which I didn't do before. You might be able to see it because it's dark, but it's actually leaking oil out of the sill. And there's a chunk out of it. Okay. On the outer edge anyway. Yeah, so it's time for a new seal. Okay. The other thing that's a concern, so these pieces here, this is what holds your drive shafts. And figure out where I put my diff. Right, it's in this box over here, kept clean. Now they fit onto these splines, but they don't fit tight. They're actually you probably can't see the movement, as you might be able to hear it. I cannot make any other noises. See how loose that is on the shaft? You can actually see it. There's a movement. So I'm wondering, once again, this is, I think it's actually the shaft itself, because see how you can pull it out. There's a lip, the lip's on the shaft, so it's actually a shaft to hold this shaft. It's diff thing that's worn. So yeah, leave that on there for now. Yeah, so I'm sort of wondering whether I might try and get out of it some cheapy way by putting some sort of epoxy around it or something. Like, I don't want to stick it, I don't want to make it impossible to get off again. This may not be, well, probably isn't, well, it definitely won't be the last time I pull the gearbox apart. But, or even, to pull them drive plates out. Because obviously that seal's gone. Yeah, she'll fix that seal. I was thinking I could do it later, but get it back in, because I want to get it out of the garage. I've got other jobs to do. Yeah. Good push it out. Anyway, I'm babbling a bit here, trying to decide what I'm going to do. But yeah, as I said, this is by no means a tutorial. This is an ask for advice. Okay, thanks for watching. Hit a like, please.